What's good, guys? It's Nick over at Golgari Mana Bar. I wanted to do the deck tech on one of my new Boros artifact commanders that came out in Strixhaven, Osgir. It was either him or the Dwarf. I decided on him because he's just too good. So Osgir is 4 for a 4/4. Vigilance. Pay 1, sack an artifact creature, give a creature 2/0 until end of turn. X, tap it, exile an artifact card with mana value of X from your graveyard. Create 2 tokens that are copies of the exiled card. You probably already know what he does. If you're watching the video, you know what he does. You have the deck. You're just wondering what upgrade you want to make. First off, Soul Ring. Come on. You can literally tap Soul Ring, use his ability to sack Soul Ring, use the other floating mana to make 2 copies of Soul Ring. So that's immediately where my mind went when I saw this guy, was mana rocks, obviously. Because you can just multiply them, and you get tons of mana value. So we got Soul Ring, Iron Mirror, Fire Diamond, Everflowing Chalice. This late game is even a good draw because you can just do it for 0 and get a lot of +2/+0s off your commander. Thought Vessel. Semblance Anvil, of course. Foundry Inspector. And Mind Stone. Oh, Arcane Signet. We got more. Sheesh. Marble Diamond. Wayfarer's Bauble. We went all out. And Keeper of the Accord. That's definitely the end. So those are all of our mana rocks, and 1 Keeper of the Accord because it's Keeper of the Accord and it's a good card. Next is cards that interact really well with his +2/+0 ability on our commander. So one of the first cards that came into my head was Brian Stout Arm. I had this when I was about probably like 12 years old. I pulled one of these. I loved the card. Never got to run it in any of my EDH decks. Now I finally do. So pump something up with your commander, throw it with Brian, deal a lot of damage. Key to the City. Pump something up with your commander, discard an artifact into your graveyard, and make that thing unblockable. So good. Luxodon Hammer. Lifelink's nice, but the trample is mainly what we're looking at in this deck. Triplicate Titan. Again, the vigilance and trample and flying just makes him really hard to deal with, and if you can buff him up with your commander or sack him with the commander, he's really good. Same with Phyrexian Titan form. They're both kind of in both categories. Alright. Next, we got cards that interact really well with the sack ability, the fact that he can sack stuff in play. Monologue Tax. Your opponent's draw cards, you get treasure tokens. You can sack those treasure tokens to give stuff +2/+0. It's too good. Workshop Assistant. Sack it, get something back. Scrap Trawler. Same thing. Sack it, get something back. Mirror Battlesphere. Comes into play, you get 4 more things to sack. And you get to pump up the Mirror Battlesphere if you do it while you're attacking. Filigree Familiar. Sack it, draw a card. Mearsire. Sack it so you can get 2 more, so you can sack it to get 2 more to sack them. That made sense. Very good in this deck. Ruin Grinder. Sack it, dump all your artifacts in the graveyard so you can reanimate them, get a whole new hand. Mirror Retriever. Sack it to get stuff back. Solemn Simulacrum. Sack it to draw a card. This is my favorite subsection of card in this deck. The Bauble cards. The cards that are just cheap. You sack to do a okay ability, and then draw a card. So with your commander, you're getting a lot of value. So Mishra's Bauble, for example, I can play one, sack it, look at the top card of someone's library, then I get to draw an additional card at the beginning of their turn. Tap my commander for 0 to put 2 more copies of Mishra's Bauble in play, sack those, look at 2 more cards. I draw 3 cards when their turn starts for 0 mana. Soul Guide's Lantern, 1 drop, pay 1, sack it, draw a card. Again, really good draw engine in this deck. Icar Wellspring, very good draw engine in this deck. 2 for a artifact when it comes into play or leaves play, draw a card. So you can play it, sack it, draw 2, get 2 copies of it, 2 more when they come into play, sack both of those, 2 more when they leave. That's 6 cards. Very good. Urza's Bauble. Same thing as Mishra's Bauble. Next, we got some board wipes. We got Slash the Ranks, because we want my commander to stay in play so I can reanimate stuff. Neverall's Disc. It's really good in this deck, because you can just keep reusing it. You can keep getting it back with your commander. So, very solid. Slaughter the Strong. Our commander just so happens to have 4 power. Wrath of God, because it's Wrath of God. Next, we're just kind of things that put stuff in your graveyard. These are other ways to get artifacts in your graveyard. Combustible Gearhawk. This could be card advantage or a way to get stuff in the graveyard. A lot of the time, they'll let you draw, because they just don't want to take a big chunk of damage. So, card advantage, very good. Quicksmith, again, card advantage, a way to get something in the graveyard. Kuldotha Forge Master, way to get 3 things in the graveyard and then something huge in play. Goblin Engineer, throws your best thing in the graveyard that you can get back with your commander, or just throw a Soul Ring in your graveyard and get it back with the Engineer. Either way, I'll take it. Audacious Reshapers. This card is awesome in this deck because a lot of our artifacts do stuff when they die. So with this card, you can sack an artifact, and you can use the commander's ability at the same time. So you can get 2 sack triggers with this guy. And you get to reveal off the top till you hit an artifact. You take damage equal to the number of cards you revealed. You get to play that artifact. In this deck, you take maybe 1-2 damage. There's so many artifacts in here. Duretti Scrap Servant, of course, puts cards in the graveyard, gets back artifacts, makes it so artifacts can't leave the battlefield, essentially. Very good. Next, we got some spot removal. Dispatch, of course, because it's a better path to exile in this deck. Swords to Plowshare, of course, because it's Swords to Plowshare. Path to Exile, again, it's Path to Exile. This is our not-so-spot removal. We got Duplicate, Rip Apart, and Dispeller's Capsule. This one is super reusable in this deck, so very good. Next, we got some game-ending cards. These are cards that just in one swoop can end the game. Boros Charm, giving my stuff double strike, of course. Steel Hellkite, just absolutely pumping it up with its ability, or my commander's ability, or just wiping their board with it. Very good card. Hellkite Tyrant. In this deck, it is very possible to win with its bottom ability. Maraud. Extra combat steps for all my huge artifacts that I'm reanimating and duplicating. Very good. And especially when I have a lot of artifacts that will search for lands, like Solemn Simulacrum and Wayfarer's Bauble. Makes this really good. Bronze Guardian. This thing will one-hit you. I've won 3 games by one-hitting someone with this card. It's insane. Wake the Past. Speaking of winning games with a card, go ahead and read that one over. Put all artifacts, yes, all, from your graveyard into play, and they gain haste, so you get to just bash face immediately. Sun Titan, 6 for 6/6. You get to bash face for 6 and bring back all your utility artifacts that you're sacking, and get extra uses out of them before you exile them. Bosch. Bosch will kill somebody. You can put 2 of those duplicate Titans into play. Sack both of them to Prosh. That's 18 damage with Prosh. You can bring back more copies of those with your commander. He's very solid. This card's insane. Gives all your other artifacts haste. Whenever artifacts you control attack, you deal X damage to a target and scry X, where X is the number of tapped artifacts. Not tapped because they're attacking either, so you can tap Mana Rocks, and they count towards the X on this. So very, very good. Next, we got multiple uses out of the commander. So we only got 2 cards in this kit, but these are just to get as many uses as we can. Of course, Thousand-Year Elixir, use your commander, untap your commander, use your commander, classic. But this is a new ad that I thought, why wouldn't you not run this card in almost every deck? Copy target activated or triggered ability. I get to activate or copy my commander's triggered ability with that. Or I can copy a permanent spell I control. So I can put 2 copies of a token into play with my commander, pay 4, put a 3rd copy of that permanent into play. So you can have 3 copies of stuff with Lithoform and your commander in play. So, very solid card. This is actually a new ad. I just put this in there today because, let me explain myself here. So if I have my commander in play, and I have 4 artifact creatures that are all pretty big and pretty solid, okay? But my commander can definitely get through. Let's say I have a Whisper Silk Cloak on it, or I have a Luxodon Warhammer, or something that I can be like, okay, my commander is going to get through. I can use my commander's ability to sack all my other artifact creatures in play. So let's say I sacked 6 of them, to give my commander plus 12 plus O, making him a 16-0, bashing face, then sacking my commander to itself, and then at the end of turn, since all my creatures are dead, all the stuff comes back into play untapped. So it's like I got a free swing with Vigilance, and I get all my enter the battlefield effects again. I get to use all my artifacts again. So yeah, very solid. You pretty much get an extra use out of all your artifact creatures in play. They all untap, and damage still goes through. So Promise of Tomorrow is really good in this deck. Grimmer the Dead kind of has the same idea. It's like a clock sitting there that it's like, don't kill my stuff. Or, you know, like, don't mill me, don't kill my stuff, because I will sack this, and I will bring it back with my commander, and I'll keep doing that if you're a mill deck, or if you're anything like that. So Grimmer the Dead will definitely handle those decks. Mystic Forge, of course, because it's a go-to card in every artifact deck you ever run. Look at that. Look at the top card of your library. You may cast if it's an artifact, pay 1, get rid of the top card of your library. If I was running black in this deck, I would run Mystic Forge with Bolas' Citadel, just so I could get rid of garbage Bolas' Citadel cards. That's really good. This one, not so much of an artifact, but he is, because it's Karn. It's the original artifact, baby. Just really good card advantage. Really good card advantage. They get to pick one of two cards, but you inevitably get to put that other card into your hand, or you can just spit out really big artifact tokens. And then the last... Oh, ran out of video time, but it's alright. We can continue. We got Lightninggreaves, of course, to protect the commander. You can make 2 copies of Lightninggreaves, protect other stuff in play. Very solid. And then Sculpting Steel is the last card, because, of course, it's every card in the deck. It could be any single thing you want. And then we got lands, of course. 3 plains. Not a lot of basics in this deck. 7 mountains. We got Lorehold Campus, of course, because scrying is good. Spectator Seating, because EDH is multiplayer. Boros Garrison, because these double bounce lands are actually really, really solid in EDH. Temple, because scrying is good.
Scrying's good?
Oh, yeah, it is.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Everyone wants to be a scry baby.
I totally forgot about scries.
Stone Quarry, just 2 lands, always good. Battlefield Forge, solid. Great Furnace, because it's an artifact. Forgotten Caves, because I can cycle it. Ancient Den, because it's an artifact. Secluded Steppe, because I can cycle it. Opal Palace, Terramorphic Expanse, Evolving Wilds, you know all these staple cards. Path of Ancestry, of course, the boy, Command Tower. Exotic Orchard, I've ran this in pretty much every one of my commander decks. I just really like this card. The art's awesome. Card's good. Study Hall, this is a new one that's actually super solid. You get to scry when you play your commander. And again, scrying's good. Shimmering Grotto. Again, I just like the art on this card. I've always ran one. This is a new one, actually. I just traded Jason for this the other day. Shrine of the Forsaken God. So, at its worst, it taps for a colorless, which in an artifact deck, I do not care about. At its best, it taps for 2 colorless, which I really, really care about. So, very good card. Rogue's Passage. Buff up a creature with my commander, make it unblockable, smash face. Grasping Dunes. This card surprisingly gets rid of a lot of annoying stuff. You can kill Birds of Paradise with it. You could kill a Sierra's Ascendant that quite isn't ascended yet. Yeah, it's pretty saucy. Darksteel Citadel. Again, artifact land. Temple. Again, taps for 2. Come on. This is one that me and my friend Deegan actually just realized was a card last night. If a spell or ability an opponent controls causes you to discard a card, you may reveal that card and put it on the top of your library. Taps for a colorless. So it's a land that just makes discard decks not good. Sunhome, again, pump it up with your commander. Bash face or double strike. What's not to like? Slayer's Stronghold, again, buff it up with your commander. Buff it up again with Slayer's Stronghold. Give it vigilance, give it haste, give it all the abilities. Why not? So yeah, that was the Osgir Reconstructor deck. One of my favorite decks I've ever made, actually. Kambal was my last deck, and I actually had a blast with it. But this deck, now that I've made it, I have not played Kambal, I don't think, once since I made this deck. Because this is just a blast to play. You can have 4 copies of Sol Ring in play with the Sculpting Steel, Sol Ring, Osgir combo. So yeah, there's pretty much just nothing but fun stuff to do in this deck. I highly recommend building it. Yeah. Drop a like. Any upgrades you guys could think of, put in the comments down below. Subscribe. Do all that good stuff. And this has been Nick at Golgari Mana Bar. Hope you guys have a good one.